You're tuning in to WODU, the best in college radio. This is Cup Check, best sports radio show in the world. I'm Alex, be your host for today. I'll let you know what's going on in the sports world and all that. Starting with, of course, the MLB. Huge deal for one lucky MLB star, or unlucky, depending how you want to look at it. You got college basketball started. Been talking about that for a while now. It finally started, so it's time to talk about it. Ranked team already upset, so and then a lot of big games tonight. Then move to the NBA. A lot going on there. Somebody said they were pro sports gambling. We'll tell you who that is in the NBA. Another contract worked out in the NBA, contract extension, I guess. And then possibly the worst basketball game I've ever watched in the NBA, ever. Happened while we were gone, from last Thursday. College football, of course, Alabama beat Mississippi State. Running back just ran over the competition. Big loss in the top 10. A new number 1. And then go back into possibly the SEC losing and missing the playoffs completely. And then move to the NFL. Peterson's verdict. A player was cut less than 24 hours after his game. Let you know why. Broncos lost to the Rams. Go into depth a little more about that. Talk about how J.J. Watt could possibly become a two-way player. And then tell you who the best team in football is. Surprising, not surprising, however you want to look at it. There's one team in football that looks head and shoulders above the rest. And I'll let you know who it is. All this on Cup Check on WODU. Starting off with that huge deal I was talking about, Giancarlo Stanton. He got a big deal. I think big is actually not even the right word for it. Humongous, ginormous, gigantic, whatever you want to call it. He is now making $325 million for 13 years. He's making approximately $68,449 a day for 13 years. He's making people's salary a day. But that's not what anybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about 13 years. He's making a good salary. I mean, if you're making $100,000, you're doing well. Like you're making $100,000 in the workforce. You're doing very well. We'll round it to 69,000. Just to make it even. 69,000 is not a bad, especially coming out of college, or if you're not working. If you didn't go to college, I mean, $69,000 is not a bad amount to make a year, and this guy's making it in a day. $325 million. If it warrants it, go ahead. I mean, he is one of the best guys in baseball right now, and it's hard to debate that. I mean, he's going to make over $150,000 per game for 13 years. I mean, they play 162 games. You got 13 years of that. Break it down. Then per game and all that. He probably won't play all the games, so he'll make more and less. But he's making about $69,000 a day. People are wondering, it's a no-trade clause. I believe there's an opt-out in it, though. But a lot of people are saying 13 years. Do you really sign for 13 years? Is that something you really want to do? A lot of people don't like this long-term, almost long-term commitment to a player. Oh, what if he gets hurt? What if this? What if that? Oh, well, you know who signed long contracts? Alex Rodriguez, Albert Pujols. This guy's young. This is one of the few people so far that have signed these multi-million-dollar deals for over 10 years. That has been very young. I mean, Cabrera signed it, I believe last year or 2 years ago. But I mean, Cabrera's no spring chicken. He's not old. He's 31, baseball-wise. You sign him 10 years from 30, he's going to be 40. At 40 years old, you're playing like Alex Rodriguez. Ask him how it's working out for him. But Giancarlo Stanton is a much younger player. Pull up his card for you, his little information thing. But I mean, you got this guy for 13 years now, and he's 25. I mean, it'll be 38. There's a lot of good players still at 38. I mean, yeah, they're not what they were at 25, or they're a little better, but they're not what they were in their peak. Yes, but there's an opt-out clause and all this. 13 years. I'm surprised more sports don't at least allow this. Hockey is the only other one I can think of that does it, because Ovechkin, Crosby. I mean, hockey, you'll never have a big free agency thing. And I think sports like baseball and hockey, nobody really pays as much attention to the free agency as they do in football and basketball. I mean, if you imagine, in football it's not really worth it because of injuries, because it's a very apparent injuries that can happen. I mean, unless you're signing a very young QB for 10 years, you're not going to have that long of a contract in the NFL. Maybe a young cornerback. But, I mean, middle linebackers get hurt a lot. Running backs, they're not even in the league 10 years, so you don't give them a contract for 10 years, especially because you don't give them a contract worth that for 10 years. NBA is a little different. I mean, LeBron could have never left Cleveland. He could have been in a 10-year deal, 13-year deal. Kevin Durant could not be coming up on free agency. Melo could have stayed in Denver. Well, he got traded, technically, I guess. He could be in New York for 13 years. They could have signed him for a long term. In basketball, you can play longer, too. Basketball is one of the sports where you can play into your late 30s, early 40s, if you're healthy. Ask Steve Nash about that. But I don't see why at least basketball doesn't. NFL, you can't do that. NFL, there's no way you can give out a 13-year contract, because in 13 years, the player's probably not going to be in the league anymore. It just happens like that. I mean, you got exceptions and who were exceptional through their entire career, like a Champ Bailey, who's retired now. But he was around for a while. But he was also traded. But you look at it, $13 million or $325 million for 13 years. He's the best player on their team and one of the best players in baseball. I mean, he has a remarkable amount of home runs at the age of 24. Only 3 players since the expansion have hit more home runs than him at the age of 24. And you look at it, Alex Rodriguez, good until the steroid part, and he was probably on steroids then. You got Ken Griffey Jr., easy Hall of Famer right there. One of the best pure hitters of all time, home run hitters of all time. If he was healthy, he may have broken the record, but he had a lot of injuries, which prevented him from that. And then Albert Pujols, who, phenomenal batter. Kind of fell off since he signed that signed that deal with the Angels. It's a good move for both of them. I don't see why the years matter. You're locking this guy up for 13 years. You're never going to have to pay him more. Because if he keeps going up, which he's 25, you would hope he would. I think it's almost guaranteed he's going to go up some. Yeah, you signed him to a 6-year deal into the age 31. Okay, 31... But he could be hitting his stride in the 30s. I mean, he could go from 29 to 33 in his stride. So you got to pay this guy a lot. And he'll want another 6 years. And that puts him right at about what his contract's going to put him at. And he's going to be worth more money then. So that you're going to be paying more than $325 million. So to lock this guy up this early for this long, it's a smart move by the Marlins. Yeah, in the short run, it's like, oh, well, they just spent all this cap money on him. How are they going to put a team around him? They're never going to be able to trade him if they need to. But right now, looking at it, this guy looks like he's going to be a stud for a long time. So it makes sense for the Marlins to do this. And Carlos Stanton, yeah, I don't see how you don't take that deal if it's put on the table. 13 years, oh, okay. If he likes Miami, then 13 years doesn't matter because he was going to sign it anyway, whether it was 6 or 13. If he wants to stay there his entire career, he might as well take the money now. Because he could end up not taking it, taking a 6-year, getting hurt or plateauing, and then not make the money that he was offered. So both of them, I believe it was a good deal. And I'm surprised it's not in more sports. We'll see it's more in baseball now for sure. Especially young talent. Maybe not pitchers. Pitchers are like a running back in NFL. You don't sign them too long because they have a shelf life. If they pass their shelf life, they're not going to be useful to you anymore. I mean, yeah, Justin Verlander, ODU alum. What has he done since he signed that mega contract? I mean, he won the Cy Young and then he kind of just fell off. There's reports that maybe people thought he was injured and all that, but he hasn't been what he was. And if you sign him to a 13-year deal, you're looking stupid right now. But then you look at like Bryce Harper, just signed I believe he signed an extension recently. They signed him to a 13-year deal and same uproar, 13 years, but it's a smart move. It's better than signing Strasburg to 13 years. This isn't a bad move. They didn't sign a pitcher. They didn't sign a 30-year-old guy to a 13-year deal and is 45, 43 years old, whatever. It's a young guy, a young outfielder who's had a remarkable season, was in the running for MVP before he got hit in the face with a fastball near the end of the season. You got a 25-year-old that was probably on the way to an MVP, if not second in the running. 13 years puts him at 38. You sign the man. You give him the money now. You keep him in the long run. And if they even it out, they probably backloaded. I haven't seen the entire agreement to it since it was just agreed recently. But unless they backloaded it, it'll be okay. They'll be able to get rid of him. Not get rid of him, but they'll be able to trade him if they need to. But if they evened it out, it's going to be okay. But like I said, if they backloaded it, it's going to be a problem getting rid of him just because all that. They'll pay $100 million in the last 3 years. But it needed to get done. They wanted to keep him. He wanted to stay there, it looks like. So it was a good move by both people. And I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA tried something like that. I know they enjoy the free agency kind of skirmish, I guess you want to call it, with like LeBron free agency coming home. Kevin Durant 2 years, there's already talk. The NBA enjoys that and makes a lot more money off of it than almost every other sport. Probably it is more than every other sport in the free agency. The NBA really knows what to do there. And there's a lot of big moves because when a superstar gets on free agency, everybody goes after him. But only time will tell for these long-term deals. But I think they start to become a little more normal, especially if somebody wants to stay there their entire career. I can see it becoming much more normal. Moving on, college basketball, best time of the year. ODU won their first game on Saturday, pretty convincingly. They played tonight, 8 o'clock. If you have time, go out and see them. It'll be a good game. But yeah, they played Saturday night. They won. It was UNC Wilmington. They won by about 20. They look good. I said they could come out and do well, and I think they kind of showed that on Saturday. I'll pull up the stat sheet here, give you a little more synopsis of what exactly went on. But nice home win, 1-0 at home. They play Richmond tonight, 8 o'clock, as I mentioned. But I mean, they look pretty good. Looking at the box score here, you look at the players who really stood out for him. Yeah, Ross, 6.6 rebounds. Didn't do a whole lot. Played 26 minutes. But you got some players that usually don't stand out to me. Trey Freeman really stepped up for him this game. I mean, he didn't do a whole lot last year. In fact, I don't even know if he was here last year or played. But he led the team with 23 points, followed by Jonathan Aldridge. Again, a senior center. He's doing pretty well for him so far. rebound-wise. Almost had a double-double, rebound away from a double-double. And they really held UNC Wilmington in check. I mean, only allowing 56 points. They scored 76. I mean, they played phenomenal defense, holding the shooting percentage to a measly 32%. And behind the arc, 38, almost 39. Free throws, again, still their kryptonite, it looks like. Only shot about 73% from the line. That's better than last year. Last year they were averaging around 68, 69. So it's better than last year, but that's still their kryptonite. But good overall win for them. Denzel Taylor had 12 rebounds, led the team in rebounds. But a lot of people played, a lot of people put in a lot of good time. All in all, it looks like they have a solid team. Looks like they're going to be able to do a lot. Maybe a little more assists. They're not great at passing the ball. 16 assists total as a team. Offensive rebounds, they had 13. That's a good chance at second chance baskets. That'd be 26 points off of offensive rebounds. But like I said, I think they can win 20 plus games this season and possibly make the tournament if they can win the CUSA. And I think they can. I think they can at least win the CUSA tournament, if nothing else. But moving on to top 25 now. You got some big games tonight. If you decide not to go to the ODU one and you want to stay in at home and watch some college basketball, 7 o'clock. There's actually a good game going on now, too. Utah, number 25. San Diego State, number 16. Scores 17-16. Very low scoring with 52 seconds left in the first half. So that's a good game. You should tune into that. That's on ESPN now. Split screen me with that. You can watch it live on ESPN. But I'll keep you updated with those scores. Tonight, number 19 Michigan State travels to, I guess. It's in Indianapolis. It's the State Farm Championship. So Duke's the home team. Michigan State's the away team. Number 4 Duke, 2-0 on the season. Just Duke's projected to win. I think they will. Tom Izzo's a great coach, but I don't think the talent for them is quite up to Duke's talent. I mean, this is talked about as maybe one of Duke's greatest teams, talent-wise, that they've had in a long time. And that's saying something, because Duke's been very, very good in the past few years. So that'll be a very good game. I expect it to come down to the wire, especially even if the talent-wise is there. It's two phenomenal coaches coaching, and Tom Izzo and Coach K. And then immediately after that, don't even gotta change the channel. You got Kansas versus Kentucky, number 5 versus number 1. This game is a huge test for Kentucky due to the fact that Kentucky was down at halftime to Buffalo. That's right, they were down at halftime to Buffalo. That's not something you want to see if you're a Buffalo fan. Or a Kentucky fan. You got a young team who is trying to find their way. They were told by another coach that they should go undefeated, and now they have that mentality in their head. But they were down at halftime to Buffalo. They came back and won by 19. So they had a good second half, holding them to only 14 points, Buffalo, that is, in the second half. But Buffalo was not even close to the level of Kansas. And if it was that close there, this is going to be a very good game between the two of them. Also, Tyler Ulis, as I said, he's doing well this year. 12 points, 6 assists that game, 4 for 5, all 3-pointers. Kid can shoot. He's short, but that kid can shoot. But Kansas and Kentucky. Kansas is 1-0, Kentucky's 2-0. Neither of them have really played anybody threatening their chances at going undefeated. But this game right here, this may end up being the game of the season, and it's this early in the season because Kentucky, their only other chances to lose I saw were they got to play Louisville. I believe they play a few ranked UNC, Louisville, UCLA is going to be a one that's kind of not too difficult, but possible trap game. And then Florida was the other one, but Florida just lost to an unranked Miami. So if Kentucky can win this, there's a shot they can go undefeated. There's a better shot, and I know that sounds stupid, but there's a better shot they go undefeated if they win this game because it doesn't look like Florida's as good as they were proclaimed to be at the beginning of the season. So that the 1-1, one at home, one away, should be a little easier for Kentucky, especially at the end of the year when they're meshing together. So this is early in the season, only 2 games in. Third game they're playing, and they're playing the number 5 team in the nation in Kansas. We'll see how well Calipari does at focusing his team, getting ready to play. But that's at 9 o'clock. So you got Duke and Michigan State at 7. You got Old Dominion and Richmond at 8, and you got Kansas at Kentucky at 9. It's gonna be a good basketball game. Virginia, number 9, Virginia is also playing tonight at 7. It's on ESPN3 for anybody who cares to watch that. They're playing South Carolina State. Should be a blowout, but anything's possible. But those are the 2 big games, Michigan State and Duke, and Kansas and Kentucky. I'm taking the favorites in both. I think both Kentucky and Duke pull it out. Kentucky's a very, very good squad. To go undefeated, I don't see it happening. But the way they can put the ball in the basket, it's hard to root against them. It's hard not root, but it's hard to pick against them. But it'll come down to tonight. We'll see how well they actually are, how well they can actually play tonight in the State Farm Championship Classic. But moving on to the NBA. A lot in the NBA. We'll start with Rudy Gay. Signed a $40 million contract extension with the Kings. Good move by the Kings. Good move by Rudy Gay. I mean, Rudy Gay is a solid player. He's always been pretty good at being what he does. You know what you're getting from Rudy Gay. He's going to be all the way through 2017, 2018. There's an opt-out, so he can opt out there. But he's 28 right now, so he'll be in the 32, something like that. Good contract extension by the Kings, who look pretty good this year, might I add. Sacramento's 6-4. They just beat San Antonio. I mean, they got the best center in the league. I think. I mean, you can throw their names out. Anthony Davis is a power forward. So you got DeMarcus Cousins. You got Dwight Howard, who apparently is soft, according to a lot of people. And Dwight Howard, we'll get into Dwight Howard and all of that, but I don't think anybody's better than DeMarcus Cousins at the big man spot. I think he is the best center in the league right now. And it's showing. And they're young. I mean, the Kings, they got Gay, they got Cousins, they got McLemore. McLemore can put the ball in the hoop. The Kings have a shot to be good for a little while. They have a shot in a couple of years to be battling out in the West. And right now they have a shot at it just due to the fact that OKC is depleted. It opens the door for a lot of teams. It opens the door for quite a few teams. And speaking of OKC, the tanking thing that came up and everything, if Kevin Durant can't come back till February, I see them not tanking, but I see them not putting him in. See them, And I know his projected time, oh, well, he's supposed to come back early January. A foot injury you don't mess with. If a guy's foot is still injured, it's injured. You don't rush him back, especially the star player that he is. You don't rush this guy back. You let him heal to 100% and then you play him. But if there's a shot that they can go out and get say a Tyler Eulis, and I think that's everybody's like, oh, you're gonna take the ball out of Westbrook's hands. That's not right. You shouldn't take the ball out of Westbrook's hands. He's a playmaker. Westbrook turns the ball over a lot. And he's going to get to control the team for a little while. Because when he comes back, there will be a probably month gap between him coming back and Durant coming back. But he's a shooting guard with a point guard build almost. He's a phenomenal player. He's a top 10 player. And yeah, I know he makes some of it off of the he makes a lot of his plays off of the dribble, bringing the ball up. I'm not saying exactly take him off of the ball and don't make him bring the ball up. I'm saying you need a guy on the floor who can pass it, who can hit the three but can pass the ball. I think Tyler Eulis is that guy. I think he can pass the ball phenomenally well. He's small, which is his downfall. But you put Westbrook on the shooting guard defensive-wise, but you still have him bring the ball up. He passes to Eulis. Eulis can find somebody. He can dribble it around. He can shoot a three. He can find Durant in the post or on the wing. He can find Ibaka. He can find McGarry. He can find Adams. I'm not saying you have to take Westbrook off the ball, but I'm saying they need a point guard on the floor. Maybe LeBron wasn't point guard and he brought the ball up. You don't have to be a point guard to bring the ball up. So, OKC tank. If Durant isn't healthy by the start of February, they don't get any better. They don't tank, but they don't get any better. Due to the fact that the West, you're going to have to win 49-plus games to make the playoffs. And you look at the way OKC plays, they'd have to probably go when Durant comes back. To make the playoffs, they'd have to probably go 40-10, 38-12, something like that. I mean, they're going to have to be really, which they can be, but it all depends on when he comes back. Because right now, Oklahoma City's 3-8, 82 games in a season, and they've played 11. They're going to have to stay about even if they want a shot at making the playoffs. And if they know they can't make the playoffs, I know telling Westbrook and Durant, hey, we got to tank. That's not going to work well. And they're not going to call it tanking. They're going to be, hey, it's a lost season. And I know Durant being on a contract, his contract expiring soon. Another thing is, hey, Durant, we got another young piece for you. We got a guy who can pass the ball. We got a guy who can spread the floor with his shot. And also I don't know how I got on this, but Durant going to Washington, I've heard some theories and everything like that. I don't think it happens. Due to the fact that I think Oklahoma City has a better roster than the Wizards. A better young roster than the Wizards. You look at who's better, John Wall or Russell Westbrook. You're going to say, oh, point guard or shooting? Oh, Westbrook shoots a lot. Westbrook is the better player than John Wall. Westbrook is a top 10 player when healthy. And the one time they were all healthy, they made it to the finals. And then James Harden disappeared. They didn't have any other bench. Now they're getting a bench. The best part about this, for an Oklahoma City standpoint, is they are now strengthening their bench. But who do you take, Westbrook or John Wall? You take Westbrook. Shooting guard, who do you take, Bradley Beal or the field at OKC? You take Bradley Beal. They get Tyler Eulis. Things change a little bit there. But right now, small forward, Durant is the varying factor there. Power forward, Serge Ibaka is better than Nene. Nene is a great player. Nene is a solid piece in that. But I would rather play with Serge Ibaka than Nene. Ibaka brings that defensive force that, yes, Nene's good. Nene has a nice defensive presence, but not an Ibaka presence. In center, yeah, Gortat gets the center position, but there's a group of guys there that can do. I mean, McGarry, Adams, and Perkins will be gone probably. Hopefully, hopefully they're gonna have cap space and all that to go out and get more players. Oklahoma City's also a total younger. I mean, you look at Mitch McGarry and Steve Adams; they're both young. You look at Russell Westbrook; he's very young. You look at Kevin Durant; he's young. You look at if you throw away the rest of the season when Durant comes back, very young. Reggie Jackson, they keep him. He's very young. I think all in all, Oklahoma City has a better team for Kevin Durant. But the prospect of coming home, does he really care about coming home? Honestly, does he? Oh yeah, well, he lived there. Yeah, he lived there, and then he went to Oak Hill in Virginia for post-grad, for playing basketball. Oh, well, that's because he wanted to get better. Okay, well, he could have came to Georgetown to play basketball. I mean, Georgetown is a really good basketball school, right? No, he went to Texas. He went across the nation to play basketball. I mean, it's nice to be at home, but he doesn't like the limelight. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that. He doesn't like the limelight. Oklahoma City's a perfect place for him because he can be a star, but he can still go to the grocery store and not have 7,000 cameras follow him. He can do things without people following his every move like he would in Washington, where he's a homecoming king. Don't know how I got on that, but that's my 2 cents. And I'm solid. I'm sticking with that thing that I don't think Durant leaves because I think they both can offer him about the same amount of money, and Oklahoma City has a better roster. Talking about Oklahoma City and the Thunder, they may have played the worst game I've ever watched, I've ever heard about. It may have been the worst game in the NBA ever. Maybe not ever, but it was really, really bad. They played at Houston. No, they played at home versus Houston. The final score was 69-65. Houston won. 69-60. There are games that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook together have scored more than either of those teams. The Warriors outscored both of those teams' totals combined that night. The Rockets could only put up 69 points against a depleted team. Yeah, they held them to 65, but when you only score 69 points, I think 2 people on their team scored more than 10 points for the Rockets. No, you had a few. Yeah, their starters did. Their bench put a total of 8 points in, and then you got James Harden with 19, Patrick Beverley with 12, Trevor Ariza with 11, and Dwight Howard with 12. I mean, 8 points from the bench. Oklahoma City wasn't much better. Lance Thomason has 15, Reggie Jackson 15, Serge Ibaka 10. Steve Adams had a point. Jeremy Lamb, don't know why I was stuck on, went 2 for 5, 1 for 3 from 3, 5 points. I thought he was going to be a stud, but he has been flopping so far. Collison had 4, Perkins had 2, Telfair had 9. It might be the worst game I've ever witnessed. I mean, the Rockets shot 20% from 3 and 29% from the field. Oklahoma City shot 30% from the field and 16% from three-point land. The Rockets shot 53% from the line. Oklahoma City shot 79. I mean, Oklahoma City had 16 points in the paint, 9 points off of turnovers. It was probably the worst game I've ever watched. Oh, it was a defensive battle. The Rockets don't play defense. They really don't. This year they've been pretty good. They're 9-2. They don't play defense. I mean, you look at the teams they've lost to and the teams they've beat and everything like that, looking at their schedule and whatnot. They beat the Lakers and gave up 90. They beat Utah and gave up 93. They beat Boston and gave them 90. They beat Philadelphia and gave up 93. They beat Miami, gave them 91. They beat San Antonio, 87, 81. Then they lost to Golden State and gave them 98. Minnesota gave 101. Philadelphia, 87. And then Oklahoma City, and then they gave up 119. I mean, they're giving them 90-plus points on average to the opposing teams. I mean, points allowed, they're second right now, allowing 91. You take the outlier out of Oklahoma City 65, and that jumps up. Because the only team they've held under 90 was the San Antonio Spurs and the Philadelphia 76ers. Other than that, they've given up at least 90 to every other team minus Oklahoma City. The Rockets' defense isn't there. Their offense is there sometimes. I mean, they've scored more than 100 points on the majority of their games. They barely beat the 76ers. They're just not... They're 9-2, but they're not a convincing 9-2. Does that make sense? Like, Memphis is 10-1 now, and they look good in all the games they play. The Rockets are 19th in points per game, and minus the 65-point game, they're probably middle of the pack in points allowed. They don't pass the ball well. They rebound all right, but they don't pass the ball well. They don't do anything exceptional, except maybe rebounding. I mean, Memphis, you look at them, and you know that they got the defense. I mean, Memphis, for the most part, is playing pretty good defense. So you got something to rely on there. Other than that, Memphis looks average. I mean, there's no team in the NBA. The Warriors are the one team I think is probably the best team in the NBA. Because I think they can score and their defense is coming along all right. But, well, I guess we'll see which team comes out better in the end. But I just don't see any of these teams that I mentioned doing phenomenal throughout the season and winning a championship. None of those teams are winning a championship. It's as simple as that. The Rockets are not winning a championship. It's just the Rockets aren't where they're supposed to be. Record-wise, yes. Team-wise, I guess we'll wait and see. But staying with NBA, told you somebody is for sports gambling, betting on sports. It's Adam Silver. Adam Silver has came out and said that he thinks there should be pro sports gambling. He's pro sports gambling. He wants some sort of way to make it all regulated and everything in all the states. Because it's only, right now, it's only in Nevada, Delaware, Montana, and Oregon. I mean, it's a smart move. The only thing is you got to pay the refs you got to pay the refs the portions that this brings in. This is bringing more money into the sport, without a doubt. And you look at it, $3.6 billion were bet in 2013 in Nevada alone. I mean, if you make it legal in every state for every sport, or just NBA, we'll just take NBA. You make it legal for NBA. More people are going to bet on it. That money goes to the NBA. And, yeah, there's a better chance that maybe the game gets rigged. But if you give the refs a hefty sum of this portion you're getting, because you're going to spread it throughout, but if you give the refs enough to where they don't see a benefit in calling, in throwing games and betting on games, I mean, that, in that sense, I don't see a negative. Sports gambling should be okay if you can make sure that refs or players in the game don't gamble on it. And players in the games, for anybody that really matters, isn't throwing the game. LeBron James isn't throwing the game. Dwight Howard isn't throwing the game. Kevin Durant's not throwing the game. I mean, most teams are not going to throw the game. Most players that matter in getting their team victories are not going to throw a game for sports gambling. Oh, well, the third string point guard for the Minnesota Timberwolves is betting on a game. He's betting against his team. Yeah, because his team's awful and he doesn't get to play. It's not like he's gonna come out and throw 17 turnovers. He's not playing. And the people that are playing, you think Wiggins is gonna purposely throw a game for the chance of making a couple $100, couple $1,000, $1 million? If Wiggins walked in somewhere, people would know who he is, and he bet, I don't know, say a couple $1 million on a game that they should win, 76ers, let's say, and he bet a couple $1 million they'd lose by more than the spread, okay, yeah, maybe. You should probably look into that. Somebody bets $1 million on something that doesn't seem right, maybe check into that. But I think if the refs are paid what they deserve and the money they get out of this, the NBA would make off of this, there's no reason why the gambling shouldn't be legal. I mean, if it came out, if every team decided to go, or every sport decided to go with this, which they won't. I mean, Adam Silver's a new-aged owner. But if they did, you give like people like Pete Rose, they back in record books now. I mean, it makes it interesting. And I think Pete Rose should be in record books. I think I've been on the show before and told you that. I think Pete Rose is the greatest hitter of all time, and he should be recognized for that. But sports gambling at some point will be legal in the near future, at least in the NBA. Maybe not the NFL, maybe not MLB, but at some point it will be legal. But moving on. College football. A lot happened. My theory of the SEC missing the playoffs is taking form. Yeah. I said Alabama needs to beat Mississippi State. That happened. Alabama beat Mississippi State last week, 25-20 at home. Alabama now has a throwaway game versus Western Carolina, and then they play Auburn at home, who Auburn just lost a bad one. They shouldn't have lost that to Georgia. Who Gurley's out. I don't know if you guys heard. Gurley's out for the rest of the remainder of the season towards ACL. Sad to see for the fact that he just got back from his suspension and all of that, and the man tore his ACL. But Auburn always puts up a fight versus Alabama. I mean, I think we all remember last year. Alabama and Auburn are going to be in a dog fight throughout. Alabama's got one loss. Then you got Mississippi State. They lost that game. They've got to travel to Ole Miss at the end of the season. And even if Mississippi State wins that, then an SEC team will make the playoffs. But you look at Mississippi State loses to Ole Miss. Okay? That's 2 losses. Then if Alabama beats Auburn, they would see Mississippi State in the championship of the SEC. Mississippi State wins both 2 losses. It's hard to put a 2-loss team over a 1-loss team. And you look at the standings now, the rankings. You got Florida State 1. I'll get on that in a minute. Alabama 2. Oregon 3, Mississippi State 4. TCU, they're probably going to be in. TCU will be in if they win the rest of the games because Alabama and Mississippi State are going to end up playing each other. Then you got Baylor right there. Ohio State right there. I mean, if Ohio State wins out, they may make it in. If Baylor makes it, Baylor may. If Alabama and Mississippi State play in the conference finals, and they both have, one has 2 losses, one has 1 loss, and the 1-loss team wins, SEC is going to miss the playoffs. And there are going to be some up-in-arms folks about that, but that is the way it's going to happen if that takes form. And I think it's very possible. Auburn still is able to beat Alabama, even though Alabama's at home. Mississippi State is in a shaken state of mind right now and could be beat next week on the road at Ole Miss. I mean, and this also showed that Mississippi State isn't the best team in college football. Florida State is. But speaking of Florida State, they won versus versus Miami last week. Come from behind win for Jameis Winston. Overall, it was a great game for them. Jameis Winston, not a phenomenal game by him, but I mean, he did all right. He got the job done. 304 passing yards, an interception, and a couple touchdowns. I mean, he did what he needed to do. Actually, he only got 1 touchdown. Yeah. A lot of field goals. But all in all, Florida State continues to win. They continue to win. They're going to do well. And their running game's getting there. Dalvin, however you want to say it, Cook, their running back, 92 yards and 7 carries. Their running game's there. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They play Boston College, who's kind of been a wrecker for some people. Boston College at home, and then Florida. Florida I thought was going to be their biggest game for the rest of the season, but now knowing that their coach is gone, I mean, you look at it now. Will Muschamp, he's gone after the end of the season. He gets to finish his last 2 games. I don't see them losing now. I don't see a shot they lose there. So Florida State, the number 1 team in the nation, the best team in college football, the Florida State ACC team, with Jameis Winston at the helm, is number 1. Told you. Best team, college football, Florida State. ESPN's power ranking has them 2, but everybody else has them 1. We'll see what the college football playoff rankings do. Since Oregon was 2, Florida State was 3, it wouldn't be surprising if they move Oregon to 1, Florida State 2. But then it's interesting because TCU, do they move TCU to 3, and then Alabama 4? And then does Mississippi State go 5, or does Baylor go 5? You'll find out tonight. There's also the college football playoff rankings. And Thursday we'll get into more of that because it'll be up. But it is very possible SEC misses playoffs. And Florida State could still be the best team in college football and win a national championship even with everybody saying they're not that good. But going on to this week. Oh, man. Don't know if you guys watched it. I'm sure you've seen highlights. My Heisman pick, Melvin Gordon. 408 rushing yards in 3 quarters. His man played 3 quarters, got 4 touchdowns, 408 rushing yards. He could have crushed the all-time rushing record in a game. Crushed it. But instead they pulled him. It was snowing. I understand. You don't want the guy to get hurt. He's 2 in Heisman's right now because of what Dak Prescott did. Prescott isn't going to win the Heisman anymore. It's hard to not put him 1. It really is. I have him one because I think he's the best player in college football right now. But some people like a lot of people like Mariota. And I can see why people would feel that way. Because I mean, he is one of the better guys in the league. Maybe the best. I mean, he threw 2 touchdowns week 11. They had a bye week last week, so he didn't move. He didn't go down, but he's only got 2 interceptions, 29 touchdowns. He's got a completion rating of 67%. He's passed for over 2,000 yards, or 250. He's passed for 2,700 yards, over that. He's rushed for 524 yards and 8 touchdowns. But Melvin Gordon, he is 81 yards off. 91 yards. Excuse me. 91 yards off of breaking 2,000 yards on the season. He's got 23 touchdowns, averages 8.6 yards per carry. My goodness. Oh my. What? This man is something else. And he's just going to continue this. I mean, his next few games aren't versus powerhouses. Nebraska was their big. They got to play Iowa at Iowa. Okay. Iowa, you look at Iowa's defense, and well, it's not there. I mean, they give up 22 points per game. Yeah. And then they play Minnesota, who's ranked, yes, but it's at home. And nobody's stopping this man. They give up 22.3 points. There's nobody in the league right now that is stopping this man from rushing all over them. I have him 1. A lot of people have him 2. But I said a running back's going to win, and Melvin Gordon looks like the guy. It's going to be a close one. It's not neck and neck, or it's not far ahead. It used to be Dak Prescott and Marcus Mariota, and then the field. Now it's Mariota, Melvin Gordon in the field, and Melvin Gordon and Mariota can be switched interchangeably, just due to the fact that Melvin Gordon is a freak of nature when he is running the football. There is no other guy in the league like him. And you may say that about Mariota, but there are some not as good. Yes, I'll give you that. But there are some quarterbacks in the league that can scramble and throw pretty well. I mean, people like Dak Prescott. People are Dak Prescott and Marcus Mariota, 1-2. They're right at each other. There's no been Melvin Gordon in this guy. Yeah, you look at the running back for Nebraska before he got hurt, Abdullah. He was good. He wasn't 400 yards good, but he was good nonetheless. But there's no running back in the league where it's like in college football where it's like, oh yeah, Melvin Gordon and him are equal. Man is a machine, and he'll be a top pick in the draft for sure. But yeah, that's a good team. That's a good guy. I have him 1. I've said that multiple times now, but he should be 1. You got the NFL now, college football. Not a whole lot left in college football. Some big games, obviously, over the weekend. LSU lost to unranked Arkansas. Wisconsin did beat Nebraska pretty handedly. Northwestern upset Notre Dame in final overtime by field goal. Virginia Tech beat number 21 Duke. Missouri beat number 24 Texas A&M. Ohio State continued their nice little run in the Big Ten, beating number 25 Minnesota. Number 15 Georgia beat Auburn pretty convincingly. Didn't give up a point after the first quarter, 34-7. Arizona State with the big loss though. This one really shook up the standings. Arizona State was maybe a favorite to make the playoffs. Now they're out of it. They lost to Oregon State 35-27. Nobody really saw that coming at Oregon State, who's 5-5. They beat them by 8 points. Pretty convincing on the number 6 team in the nation, who was looked to be seen as maybe one of the teams to sneak into the playoffs if a couple teams lost here and there. But after a show like that, there's no way you're getting in now. And that's really a big blow to Arizona State and pretty much the Pac-12. You look at the Pac-12 now, the Pac-12 isn't getting anybody in the playoffs for them. Because it looks like it's going to be Big 12, ACC, SEC maybe. Who else is up there? Oregon is in the Pac-10. There you go. There's your 5. Not 5, there's your 4. TCU avoided the upset at Kansas, although Kansas had the play of the game. The tip drill catch for a touchdown that their wide receiver put on the sideline was one of the plays of the season. But TCU avoided the upset, winning by 4. Alabama, as I mentioned, beat Mississippi State. Alabama will now crack the top 4. Might move to 3, depending on how the people feel in the playoff race. And Florida State stays undefeated, staging yet another late game comeback, 30-26. Moving on to the NFL, Peterson. Adrian Peterson is banned for the rest of the season and will not be paid, but he is appealing. But you can drop him from your fantasy. That's what everybody heard. Oh, Adrian Peterson may be coming back. Immediately you picked him back up if you dropped him. He's for the rest of the season, he's done. I kind of find it shocking. Just due to the fact that I'm not quite sure what all happened. But to go from the league unable to perform list, or whatever you want to call it, the special list, where he was getting paid, and then he comes back and tries to play, and then they suspend him. I was a little shocked when I saw that. And I mean, they're gonna speak it out. They're gonna talk it out more and everything, and he's appealing it and all of that. And he may be back next season. But I was a little surprised due to the fact that I thought he was gonna get to play again this season. But it doesn't look that way. It doesn't look that way. Well, it's not happening. He is not playing the rest of the season, so you can drop him on fantasy. Another guy you can drop on fantasy, LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount was dropped less than 24 hours after the game last night due to the fact that he left the field before the end of the game. I guess he was upset. He wasn't getting to play. But Tomlin said, we believe in the decision to release LeGarrette is in the best interest of the organization, and we wish him the best of luck. He's done. His career's over. I'm not quite sure how many other people want to pick him up. He left because he didn't get the time played. Same with running back for 49ers. Did the same thing. 49ers are holding on to him. LeGarrette Blount's gone. And when you're behind a guy like Le'Veon Bell, who had a career-high 204 rushing yards and the most for the Steelers on a Monday night game, you can't be but too upset that you're not getting playing time. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is having a phenomenal season. I believe he's now second. He was third, but I think after that game he moved to second in the league in rushing yards. But I mean, Bell's been amazing. Bell's been very, very good. He's rushed for 2 touchdowns and 266 rushing yards in 11 games with the Steelers. But, I mean, Bell almost got that in one game. And that's because Bell's getting the majority of the carries, but you can't be upset at that. I mean, if a man's playing like that, you just want to be on a team that's continuing to win. I mean, you can't play over Bell. Blunt's not playing over Bell. Blunt's done. Bell's going to continue his career and be a pretty solid running back, it looks like. The Steelers might make the playoffs, and Bell's going to be watching them at home going, I probably shouldn't have done that. I was getting paid. I could have been on that team. Who cares if you're sitting on the sideline rooting? You're going to get some playing time. If Bell gets injured, if Bell gets tired. But, you're going to get some playing time. So to sit there and be like, I'm leaving. And somebody called him out on it. Joey Porter called him out on it. The defensive assistant. Called him out on it. And he kind of like waddled back and then left again. Also, Ben Tate was dropped by the Browns. That's a guy who will pick up. I mean, Tate will be picked up. Bell will not, or Blunt will not. So, Blunt looks stupid doing that, and now he won't. He's not gonna have a job. He's out of a job. The Broncos. Whoa, what happened there? Lost to the Rams. I mean, for being one of the best teams in the league, they didn't look like the best team in the league. I mean, they lost to an awful team in the Rams. 4-6. The Rams are 4-6, and Denver could only put up 7 against them. It gave up 22. They're going to have to play better to beat a team like the Patriots in the playoffs, who is 8-2. And, well, just playing out of their mind right now. I mean, you look at Jonas Gray. Phenomenal game. 4 touchdowns. Nobody saw that coming. Gronkowski's healthy. Brady's playing very well. Yeah, Denver will always be there. But now they're tied with the Chiefs. They're tied with the Chiefs at 7-3 in their division. And the Chiefs have no touchdowns receptions by a wide receiver. The entire season, no touchdowns by a wide receiver. And they're 7-3. If I told you that stat, if I said a team right now has no touchdowns by a wide receiver, who would you say? Oakland. Oh, Oakland. I don't know. The Jets, like Titans, something. I mean, you wouldn't say the one of the top 5 teams in football right now in the Chiefs. But they haven't. The Cardinals, though, the Cardinals are the best team in football. Right now, the Cardinals are ranked 2 on the power rankings. It's hard to take anybody over them. They just beat the best defense in the league in the Lions with a backup quarterback. 14-6. There's nothing else to say. The Cardinals are the best team in football. The Patriots are a close second. But as of right now, the Cardinals are the best team in football. And they have one of the best defenses running-wise. And a lot of people don't like them because they're not great at anything but rushing defense. Only allowing 80 yards. Rushing yards, they're 80. They get 80. I mean, they're 30th. So, they're not phenomenal in anything in specific. Yet, they're really good as a team. interesting. But we'll see throughout the season. But I think that overall, the Cardinals are the best team in football. And I mean the Packers are a team that they look like they were going to be average, and then Aaron Rodgers goes on this remarkable MVP run. Right. It's hard for me to say. I called Andrew Luck being the best quarterback, but right now Aaron Rodgers is without a doubt the best quarterback. 27,000 yards, 2,700 yards, 28 touchdowns. Pull up Luck stats for you here in a second. But the past few games, this is the first time ever that the Packers have put up more than 50 points, I believe. More than 50 points in their in back-to-back games. Luck's a little better. Luck's passed for almost 3,400 passing yards and 28 touchdowns. More interceptions, though. He's got 10 interceptions, where Rodgers doesn't have quite as much. So, right now, though, I would take Rodgers over Andrew Luck. And I came out and said, Andrew Luck, best quarterback. And he may still be the best quarterback. But I think as of right now, you look at like the MVP candidates. You're looking at guys like DeMarco Murray, Aaron Rodgers, and J.J. Watt. It's going to be hard for J.J. Watt to win. But J.J. Watt can. Right now, he's almost a two-way player. Tight end and defensive end. I mean, he's got more touchdowns than Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. I don't remember some of the other names, but he stood out. Like it was remarkable. This man has 4 touchdowns, 4 receiving touchdowns, or no, I think just 4 touchdowns. You look at it, and he's got 1 defensive touchdown, and it was an interception for a touchdown. Receiving stats, he's got 2 receptions on 2 targets for 3 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, the man is doing it on every side of the ball right now. He looks like a tight end when they put him in. And the catch he made over the weekend versus the Browns, it was a very good catch. It wasn't a little dumb pass. I mean, now teams have to respect him when they line him up. And they did, and they still were able to throw him the ball and catch it. I mean, he is maybe able to be one of the first, not one of the first, but one of the most recent two-way players since like the 80s, 70s. It would be very interesting if they did that, or if they decided to continue and do that. But yeah, I mentioned earlier, Ben Tate was cut by Cleveland. Opens up more space for Terrence West and Isaiah Crowell. But it shows that he wasn't as good as everybody thought he was behind Arian Foster. Foster was pretty much the team there, and everybody was like, oh, well, you got a great running back behind him. I thought he was going to do well in Cleveland. And now to see him dropped, I mean, cut, it's shocking to say the least. I think he will be picked up again, but all in all, I guess the Browns made a good move. They've got a young running back. But, yeah, he'll be picked up again. Also, Jonas Gray, instead of having 199 yards like they said, it was bumped up to 201. So he had 4 touchdowns and 201 rushing yards. Not a bad day at the office. For the man who came in and, well, came in with no touchdowns and then did a phenomenal job. And interesting story kind of developing. People are saying with the loss of Ahmad Bradshaw, the Colts may be desperate to sign somebody. Ray Rice was thrown around, and, well, that was shot down immediately. The Colts said, we have no interest at all in signing this man. And there's no reason to. He's just a locker room destroyer right now. I mean, every single question would be like that. Would be for that. For him to anybody for the rest of the season on a team where they're trying to make the playoffs and can make the playoffs and do a good enough job in the playoffs. Yeah, they're going to need a running back, but he's not the guy. Maybe Ben Tate. Ben Tate's available. A lot of cuts this week. Panthers cut Jason Avant, and they're going to activate Mike Tolbert. He was injured. That whole division's bad. The thing is, the Panthers can still win that division with an awful record. I mean, you look at that division and you see mediocre. Atlanta 4-6, New Orleans 4-6, Carolina 3-7-1, and then Tampa Bay 2-8. Tampa Bay still got a shot at that at the NFC North. I mean, you look at the teams that they have left to play. New Orleans has left to play Baltimore, winning record. Pittsburgh, winning record. Carolina, divisional game. Chicago, losing record. Not great. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, divisional games. New Orleans could be in trouble. Then you look at Atlanta, the other team leading. They got Cleveland, winning record. Arizona, winning record. Green Bay, winning record. Pittsburgh, winning record. And then you got New Orleans and Carolina, both divisional games. You got Carolina, Minnesota, losing record. New Orleans, divisional. Tampa Bay, divisional. Cleveland, winning record. Atlanta, divisional. Carolina has the easiest path. I mean, looking at who's left, Chicago losing record for Tampa Bay, but then they got to play Cincinnati and Detroit, winning records. Carolina, and divisional. Green Bay, winning record, and then New Orleans, divisional. I'd take Carolina out of that just due to the fact that they got an easier schedule, and none of those teams are good. And then you look at like the NFC West, Seattle third, San Francisco second, Arizona first by a landslide. You got the AFC North still very, very close. Cincinnati's first, Pittsburgh second, Baltimore third, Cleveland fourth. That's going to be a fun one to watch. And you look at Pittsburgh, they got some tough games left. Kansas City, Cincinnati twice, and they got New Orleans and Atlanta. Then you got Cincinnati, who hasn't been playing well. They got to play Houston, losing record, but pretty good. Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's probably going to miss due to the fact that they got a pretty tough schedule. Baltimore, they play New Orleans, San Diego, Miami, Jacksonville, Houston. Baltimore's schedule is pretty easy, it looks like. And then you got the Browns. Bringing up at the rear, 6-4. They got to play Atlanta, Buffalo, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Carolina, and Baltimore. All the teams got a shot. Nobody's got a difficult schedule at this point except Cincinnati. It'll be a fun one. Football's going to be fun. And will Oakland ever win a game? I guess we'll have to wait to find out. But they're 0-10, and it's not getting any easier. They got to go play San Diego or Kansas City, maybe St. Louis. They can get a win. Then they got to play San Francisco, Kansas City again, then Buffalo and Denver. They can end up with the first. They'll end up with the first round draft pick or the first overall draft pick. But yeah, it's crazy. But until next time, this is Cup Check on WODU, the best in college radio. I'm Alex. Go watch some college basketball. Big games tonight. Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State, Duke, Old Dominion, Richmond. All of them. Watch all of them. Oh, I'll give you a score update real quick on Utah and San Diego State. San Diego State's winning 38-31 with 3 minutes and 41 seconds left. So go watch that game now. Since I'm off, you guys can go do that. Continue the rest of your day now. College basketball. Talk about that more. The big games. Thursday. Tune in. Follow us on Cupcheck_radio. Like us on Facebook, Cupcheck Radio. Also got an Instagram, Cupcheck_radio. Have a good rest of the day. Signing off.